welcome back again. Our first session is about anime, manga in gaming, explosive growth, exciting trends, and how to be part of it. I present you Adrien Bacchi, CEO and co-founder of CHB Phoenix.
CHB Phoenix.
CHB Phoenix.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the few that dare to be curious about anime and manga and video games. And I think this is precisely why the topic is very cool. Is that most of the people out there are just not understanding what's happening with anime and manga, and that's the beauty of it. Is that all these people are just going to become millionaires when they could be billionaires if they would understand what is the tectonic shift that's happening on the market. So, quickly, I'm Adrien Bacchi, entrepreneur since 2006, founder of CHB Phoenix. We are a video game studio based in Bulgaria, in Sofia. We have 72 people and plenty of freelancers. And we are specialized in everything video games and anime and manga style. It really started out of passion. I mean, I've been passionate about manga and anime since 2000, 1986, I think. I was 5. It's very important to understand what's happening, to understand how it happened in France initially. Back in the 19th, who else here is passionate about manga and anime? Knows a little bit, at least, no? Where are you from? You're from Turkey? Germany? Turkey. So I don't think that in Turkey you had the same influence. I think it's just happening. I think in Germany a bit more. In France, back in the 1970s, 1980s, you had some very smart businessmen. I think that Berlusconi, rest in peace, was part of them, that went to Japan and realized that the Japanese were really producing a lot of anime and a lot of movies and a lot of series, that they had all this stuff. And the Japanese way at the time, and it's still the same, is to mass produce, to test, what we in digital marketing we call split testing in the end. And they were testing a lot of stuff. And every year it was novelty and new stuff that were replacing the old stuff. That was already in the 70s their thing. And the deal that they made, these Western businessmen, they said, you have these IPs that are just shelved and you do nothing with it. And we are going to buy your old IPs, you do nothing with it. And the Japanese, they were like, these idiots, they want something that is 5 years old. Who cares about Bioman and Power Rangers and all this stuff? We give it to them. So they had a deal that was without royalties. It was a royalty-free deal. And they bought the back catalog for many, many years. And that explains why in France and probably in Germany, we have been brainwashed with Japanese animation, because what do you put between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.? You put some anime because it's royalty-free. And they were just having reruns and reruns and reruns of Dragon Balls infinitely. And people from my generation and the generation before and the generation after, we have been so much exposed to anime. And that's important for the general topic, because France, historically, has been the biggest market outside of Japan for anime and manga. I think it's changing now. The US are really catching up. But we didn't have the American comics. It has always been considered as cringe. When I was a teenager and I was kind of reading some X-Men and all, I mean, that was cringe. And my friends, they were looking at me like, you're an idiot, read some Dragon Ball. I was also reading Dragon Ball, but American comics have little influence in France. Huge influence of anime, and what happened in France is currently happening everywhere else. It's catching up very, very fast. Let me see if I can have the next slide. No, can I? So the overall idea about the growth, to give you some numbers. I think you all know the numbers of the video game industry. Like 40 years ago, it was a $1 billion industry in the 70s. Then it became a $10 billion industry 10 years after. Then it became a $30 billion when we had the PlayStation and the new consoles. Then with mobile, it opened. I think the first time it went above $70 billion was 2008, 2007. At the time, it was hot news because it was bigger than the movie industry, which was surprising for a lot of people that all revere the movie industry. And then it went insane. About $100 billion in 2017, 2018. And how much was it last year? 200 billion, 190, 210. I don't think there's an official number for the size of the industry last year, but I think we all agree that it was somewhere around 200. So if you see the progression, it's extremely interesting. It's also very interesting if you compare it to other industries, that it's a very new industry, the video game industry. Meaning that if you have to compare it to the automotive industry, for example, they have 100 years of accumulation of wealth, and the video game industry, it's just starting to become a rich industry. It's just the beginning. I need to know about the buttons. So, about the anime industry. What's interesting is that in 2020, it was estimated to be about $20 billion, the industry. You need to take into account that it was estimated to be less than 10 in 2010. We don't have the numbers because at the time the market was mostly happening in Japan, and they don't share the numbers. But it's estimated to have doubled in 10 years, and it's estimated to have been 33 billion last year, and it's forecast to be 44 billion by 2027. And most interestingly, it's not just the revenues, it's also the taste for it. Because a lot of the culture for anime and manga is happening with social media, but also with piracy, with peer-to-peer, with torrent, with all the sites that are stealing the IPs and distributing them. Back end of the 90s, with the beginning of the internet, there was a lot of fans that were translating the Japanese manga that were not translated in English. They were translating them and distributing them for free just because they are fans. And the scan movement, the scanlation movement has always been like, as long as it is not officially distributed in English, we distribute it for free, and we remove it if it is finally distributed as a paid version. So the fan base is a lot bigger than the paid base. What really happened, I think the whole industry agrees that Netflix have been the first to actually see that something interesting was happening. Back in 2014, they started with their first anime. I think it was Knights of Sidonia, but have to check. And they continued. It was successful, and they continued. They bought IPs like Hunter x Hunter. They revamped JoJo Bizarre Adventure. They took some old IPs that they remastered. They have also some exclusivities, and their catalog has been growing and growing and growing. And I remember a few years ago, personally, I stopped watching anime a few years ago. I read a lot of manga with piracy. I buy when I can, but it's a lot of piracy. And I stopped watching anime because it was just not practical. You go to the gym, you're not going to download a torrent. And the moment they put it on Netflix, I was like, wow, that's cool, that's convenient. And then I started seeing in the top 10 of top trending stuff of Netflix all the new anime, and I was like, okay, something is really happening. And that's the moment that I realized, okay, something is really going to push the culture, and it's going to be mass market, and it's becoming huge in the US, but not just the US. The driving markets are going to be mostly India. India has a huge taste for anime. They start to have enough money to spend. And this is also what is going to be interesting, and what you're going to see here is that originally the anime and manga market is driven by Asia. The Japanese, they have this tradition of producing for their own market and not caring about translation because they make enough money internally, and going what they call overseas, international, is a pain in the butt. They don't speak really well English. They have a trouble with this. They don't really like it. And these are not cliché. I mean, it's practiced. We've done business with Japanese. It's fascinating and difficult. They don't have this mentality of going international. And games like Grand Blue Fantasy that you might have heard of, it's like more than 10 years ago that they started being a blockbusters, and the game was making $1 billion just domestically in Japan. and fans had to beg the developers to make an English version. And I remember 4 years ago, I tried the game, and the game was half translated in English. You needed an account on yahoo.co.jp or some Japanese-specific thing to have an account on the game. It's just a disaster. But they make so much money with their thing internally that they don't care. And it's changing. So thanks to Netflix, now Disney+, now HBO, now Amazon Prime, they all have an anime catalog. And what's happening is that the production of anime and title is staying the same, while the demand is exploding. And that will be another part of the opportunity that's going to be created, is that the Japanese have their ways of creating their IPs. They create for quality. They also create a lot of quantity, but you're not going to see this quantity in English. I don't think so. And the demand for this type of entertainment will grow a lot faster than the market itself. So here you have the difference between exactly what I was talking about, that the domestic sales, so what was done in Japan and in Asia, and now in 10 years you have this growth of how much it represents. Now it's half of their revenues are coming from overseas development. Funny thing, also an illustration of people that can take the opportunity. The biggest Japanese-style, anime-style video game is Genshin Impact, which is Chinese. And that's the biggest bank robbery. I mean, I'm super impressed by what they've done. They've copied all the codes, all the style of the Japanese, but the Japanese having their production that is very slow, they take their time, and all the Chinese, they just copied everything. They made everyone believe that it's Japanese and it's Chinese, and they're amazing. And they have taken, I don't know if they have not taken 100% of the market. It's insane, and I think it's a fantastic example of what you could do. So what can you do? What can you do to take part of that? Because on one end, it could be seen as something a bit depressing, that the production of anime-style entertainment is still very much focused on the production from Asia. They are the people that really know how to do it. They produce at their own pace. And when you see Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and all these Chinese productions or some Korean productions that are amazing, is there space for Western productions? And at least that's our philosophy with CHIBIPHENIX. I can at least explain what we are trying to do. We are specialized in this type of entertainment by passion and, I know, by history. We have been trying webtoons. Our first webtoons, they were back in 2008. We have a webtoon platform. We published, we printed stuff. And we have developed our own backend. And our concept is this. If it cannot be produced fast enough or well enough by the Asians, we are going to produce it ourselves with either local teams or decentralized teams. And that's what I think the Genshin Impact is the best example. Like the Japanese don't have a patent, they don't have a copyright on their style. You can take their style and copy it, it's fine. So do it. And I think, but part of the mix is really to leverage the transmedia, because a lot of what you have with manga and anime is starting, the production for manga, if you don't know, always starts with paper. They start with magazine production. Every week they are producing like 20 chapters of different titles. The top 3 titles are being produced into books. If the books are successful, they have a second book. If they have 2 books that are successful, they have 10. And the series that are not popular in the magazine, they are trashed. So they have this system that every year, I think they are printing in books like 6,000 or 7,000 new titles. To get to 6,000 or 7,000 new titles, it means that they have been putting in the magazines 3 or 4 times this amount that they trashed. So it's a big pile of trash. And then they are leveling up by the business, the quality. So it starts from the paper, then it becomes books. If the books are successful, there's more books. If the books are really successful, there's an anime. If the anime is successful, there's a movie. If the movie and the anime are successful, there's a video game. Orders might vary, okay? But this idea of transmedia is it's kind of a trendy consultant world to say that they are just using their license and they're making goodies and books and all. But you can, I think the Japanese, recently, not necessarily the Japanese by the way, a lot of Korean titles have been published first as light novels. I don't know if anyone knows what is a light novel here. You don't know what is a light novel. The light novels are online fan fictions written. They are written stories. A lot of them are really Korean, and it's very popular in Korea. People consume the light novels, and there's been publishing houses that have been reading all the light novels, and they are like, oh, wow, this one is very popular. I'm going to transform it into a webtoon. And then the webtoon is becoming a video game. So you have stories like, that time I reincarnated into a slime that is coming from a light novel, or solo leveling is part of the light novels. And they are really using that as a marketing tool. They create the fan base, they start from small, and they expand it. So that's a sad story. I will not talk too much about it because we tried our own webtoon platform in 2010, but it was all out of passion without a business plan, and it didn't really work, let's say. But we already had this vision. You have this French studio called Ankama that some of you might have heard of. Ankama has really started with this concept of making video games and books and animation. They have this Wakfu animation that is published on Netflix. And I think it's a really good example. Part of the things that are very interesting to copy, it's not just the style, it's also the creativity and how they do it. Something that is happening on the Western market, you might have seen more and more games for women on like chapters, like episodes, like Taboo, and these are very big in Asia. You don't have it's actually a huge market that they have developed for the past 10 years. It's just starting to be developed. So this is what we are working on also as a romance game. The girls in the team have been fighting for that for a few years. So we decided it was time. So you have seen the visual novel style. That is also something that is very Asian, that you see as premium games is going to develop more and more as freemium, hybrid, casual, however you want to call it. Ultimately, in terms of opportunities, there's this idea of how can you experiment with the style, how can you adapt the style. I believe that every challenge like this one is a huge opportunity. You can also think that because the market is going to grow, it's also an opportunity for Westerners to do their own style and to appeal to more Western styles. Some people have been saying, oh, your games are amazing, it must be like super hot in Asia. So don't try that. Just as an advice, if you want to do anything anime and manga, don't try to sell it to Asian people. That's not gonna work. We tried. We tried to make games with a Japanese partner, and it was a disaster. The collaboration itself was difficult, people very nice, but in the end, very bad English, time zone difference, 6-month integration on the platform because the tech documentation was badly translated, and we had to find the missing elements on Slack with the developers that were really not collaborative. It was a nightmare. And the game that was supposed to make 5 to 10K per month did the first month $17. So 1.7, you know, so not 17,000, it's 1.7. It's a complete disaster. And the final explanation, because the business people, they were like, oh, we want your style, it's going to be appeal with Japanese people that want exotic style, they want something different, and it's absolutely not true. They actually want Japanese style done by Japanese in Japan for Japanese, and they are, you can say they are racist in their way, let's say very conservative and very closed. So you're not, and if you take it to the history of business with Japan, you know that if you're in Japan, you know that most of the cars are Toyota, or maybe Mitsubishi, or maybe Daihatsu. But you don't have Renault, Peugeot, you don't have Ford, you don't have all this stuff. They have their cars. And it's the same thing for video games. They have PlayStation, they have Nintendo. Xbox has like less than 5% of the market. And it's the country where Microsoft could not sell the Xbox. So in retrospect, if you think about that, we have been very naive to think that our games could appeal to these people because they already have all the games they need. So I think this is the wrong strategy. I think the right strategy is to understand better our markets and what we understand in Western Europe, in MENA region, in the United States, in LATAM, in India. I think we can understand a lot better this mentality, and we can understand a lot better what people want. Like people want localization, they want local community management, they want local social media, they want all this experience that Asians are in general not very good at doing, because they already translating in English is difficult. Maybe what I'm saying is going to be wrong, and maybe they are going to up their game very fast, and maybe they are going to be amazing and partner with other companies to do it. We'll see. I think that the part of the creative outlet that can be really interesting is to think, I think generative AI can be really interesting in this case. I'm not necessarily a big fan of AI in general, but you will often hear people saying, oh, we wanted a video game in manga style, so we partnered with this Korean studio or this Japanese studio or these Philippine studios, and it was a disaster because they were not speaking English, the time zone was hard, the quality was not good, there were delays, they promised this and that, and the reality was this and that. And we are working with 80, 100 freelancers every month to provide for our games that are really, really heavy in content. This is really what we do. And we are working with freelancers from different zones. It's very difficult to find people that are consistent and can create art that will look like the real Japanese thing. The real Japanese thing, they have their schools, they have their style, they have their practice. It's very well organized. So to imitate the style, it's not going to be super easy. But that's where AI is going to maybe save you, because AI can copy the style and do it like brilliantly. It will come with other challenges. I guess that a lot of you have been trying AI in many ways, and it's quite complex. Something that we've been trying, and I think this can apply also. I think it's an extension of the reflection. You might have heard from people that are interested in Netflix and everything streaming that there's a huge trend for Korean dramas. And Squid Game has been a huge success, and it's a Korean production. And you have a lot of Asian productions that are happening and that are going to be really interesting. So the cost of production of anything with videos, 8K and all, has dropped. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, some people remember the first experiments of mixing movies and video games that were a bit lame, and then have been dropped for 3D. But now you can do 8K videos with your phone, and you can actually maybe produce a video game that is going to be interesting. And maybe you're going to find your best Asian friend to be in your movie and make some kind of an Asian video game style, but you're going to do it from Düsseldorf or from Lisbon, I don't know. I think this is really part of the general reflection that you can have. That was a test that we did with green screen, but I will spare you that. That's the level 0 on the conversation, and I'll be happy to take your questions. Because depending on what you want to know about the anime market, there can be different levels of what you are going to talk about. I find it really, when I'm here in this conference, or I was in GDC in San Francisco last month, it's the same stuff. People are all producing video games that are American style. Everything is stylized with an American style. Or something European, if you want to say, but I have not seen a lot of productions that are really, I mean, the Turkish video games, they don't look like Turkish video games. They look like international video games. And games that are produced in France, they don't look like, oh, it's been made in France. They look like international. And international will be American. But you have very little productions that are trying to get inspiration or to copy or to mimic the Japanese, the Asian style when it's not made in Asia. And the Asians are very good at this, but I still believe it's a huge opportunity. Again, I don't know if you guys have tried to make a business with Asian people, but if you have been to GDC, clearly, for Japanese, you know, they are really deep in this concept of honor, respect. If you want to have an honorable career, you do it in Japan for Japanese, and you climb the ladder of the hierarchy to be at the top of a big Japanese corporation. And if you're going to work for international trade and overseas, you are punished. You failed something in your career, and they are sending you somewhere with English courses to do business with the American. And in GDC, you had the Japanese video corner, and they were behind their desk hoping that nobody would talk to them. And sorry if it sounds cliche, but it's difficult to make business with Japanese. There's a lot of money to be made, but it's tough. The Chinese are a bit more forward, but it's still difficult. So I think there's an opportunity here because we have our ways of doing business between Western people. We do this networking, we meet, we are fast, we like things to flow. So I think this is also a way to position ourselves and to take the market here with their style.
Great talk. You mentioned that the Japanese players are very picky when it comes to style, and they smell it if it's not regional, and they don't like it. So what did the Chinese do to overcome this with Genshin Impact? How did they do it?
It's a very interesting question. So I didn't study it. What I can say is that they have been trying already for the past 20 years to copy the Japanese. It's like, I don't think that Genshin Impact is like their first attempt. In the manga style, what was it called? Anyway, in the 90s, we had the first Chinese manga that were published in France. But there was a few titles that were really well done. But nothing really worked. They never managed to create an IP that was strong, made in China, and managed to be really interesting. I don't think we have played a lot of Chinese IP games on PlayStation. I cannot list a lot of them. But they've been really influenced with their rivalry with Japan, that has been always the enemy. I don't know how much you see that, but in Southeast Asia, the Japanese are very pretentious, and they see themselves as the superior, and this is also why they've been invading and killing the others and being smashed by the others that are seeking for revenge. But I was in Thailand 2 years ago, and people still admire the Japanese because they are more white, because their skin is more this, and there's a lot of ideas about Japanese being more elegant and being more this and that. There's really this rivalry that is Southeast Asian, and the Chinese, they've been wanting to overcome the Japanese since forever. So I guess that they've been trying to copy many times, and they finally succeeded. I think it's really something that we see it happening just now, like an overnight success, but actually they've been trying this maybe for 20 years, and it's the first time that, boom, they are making it happen. But if I would, I don't know how they financed it. What is the story behind Genshin Impact? But I also think that they must have a track record of different successes before that, before getting there. I don't know if anyone has information to share on this. I didn't study in depth this company, but for sure there must be a lot of people and very talented people.
Is there any other question?
Come on, ask questions. It's your chance to become a billionaire. Do you really want to just be a millionaire? You have this opportunity. I can answer you. You can get the market. I mean, if you're fine with just a few million, it's okay. The market was 33 billion last year. Just for anime, it's going to be 44 by 27. Maybe you can get 1 billion out of it. Plus 11 billion, I'll try.
It looks like everybody has billions.
They're okay, yes. They're okay as it is.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you very
presentation.
much.